Hey, Vilas.
Yeah, Yogesh. I was wondering where everyone was.
Yeah, I figured no SGC meeting today, right? I thought it was cancelled.
Yeah, the STC one was canceled.
Yeah, that's why you're here early.
That's right, yeah.
Hey, Mida.
Hey,
Hey, Varun.
everyone. I was wondering if today also we have a break or not.
It was tempting. I guess we can start seeking any opens. I don't think we will. Yeah, I mean, Drew is out today, so we should get a couple of more folks at least, but we can start with opens. I have some thoughts that I want to share about. So we started with out of band requirements. We almost done with the in band requirement, which is mostly, how we want the platforms to signal errors and what error types and capabilities in band and out of band needs to be supported. I think as a next step, what about the firmware first requirement, which is neither managed by OS nor managed by the BMC, but by the platform itself, which currently is mostly done in SMM mode, wherever control is needed.
What about it, Yogesh?
So we have requirements for in band and out of band, right? Almost, but we do not talk at all about. So I was thinking for the next phase,
Isn't
maybe
firmware
after.
first like part of in-band though?
Yeah,
You can
I mean,
say
that's
that.
where I was going.
Yeah.
Because I think the in-band document does talk a decent amount about it, right?
Yeah, it does, but we have not laid down any requirements as such for. I mean, we talked about signaling to OS, but there are areas where we can talk about expectations from the platform firmware or even more. I mean, there's a lot. don't want to go in details just yet.
I mean, like, were you thinking of something that, for example, ACPI wouldn't cover? That I'm just trying to understand.
So a lot of what we do is not really something we are complementing ACPI, right? It's what we require. What we are expecting is how what is required, what is expectation from the platform designer. Now, if we think that the ACPI covers all those requirements already for a platform that's, errors are handled by the BMC or by the OS, or for that matter by the firmware, then yeah. So I'm trying to understand why ACPI should lay down requirement for compliant system like
No,
OCP.
I mean, I mentioned ACPI because you were saying the interaction between firmware and OS, so that, that's what ACPI has, right? So, but so it's outside of that. You're saying the thing
Yeah.
that-
So errors not managed by out of band agent or nor managed by neither managed by BMC nor managed by OS, right? So
I
there's
mean,
no.
yeah. Are you thinking more like the division of responsibility between the OS and platform firmware on the in-band path, Yogesh? Like that kind of, is that what you're thinking?
That could be part of it. That could be part of it. To be honest, I'm thinking out loud here. I'm not really thought details of that. I was just thinking, okay, so what next? We once we're done with what are the expectations from the platform, so the OS can manage the errors efficiently. What are the expectations from the platform so that the BMC can manage them efficiently? What about the expectations for the platform itself to manage it efficiently or in some sort of a compliant way? So think about it in a way like, okay, so one example we'll ask could be, I mean, of course, how division would be maybe one area to go into. Other would be RAS microcontroller on the platform, right? What are the expectations from that? Now we can, just wash our hands by saying just be RAS API compliant and you're done, which may be a right answer too. But is there more than that? And do we need to go into that area? It's kind of an open discussion here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying, Yogesh. I at least have to think about what would make sense in terms of,
So
next step on the requirements document.
yeah, so yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, just wanted to plant the seed, and what else are the expectations from the platform itself?
So I
that-
joined a few minutes late, had some Zoom problems. Vilas, if you understand it, can you explain it to me in different words than Yogesh is using? Because I don't know if because I missed it or I just don't understand the picture.
No. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure that I don't know, but so what Yogesh was saying was we're, let's call it, close to wrapping up the in-band document. I mean, we can debate exactly how close, but close enough to wrapping up the next version of that document. He was just saying, hey, would a next interesting thing to cover be, expectations for firmware first operation or something like that. Right. So that was his question. I think Mita and I were asking questions, trying to see if we could make sense of that, or not make sense of it, but like see something that could useful to be done there, right?
Also, I mean, like we also have talked about as next steps, things like the scenarios that Drew had started working on. And one of the things that we probably should go back to is PCI Express. So, we can throw these two things also as possible next steps. What do you think?
I think the
Yogesh?
PCI one is a good one, right? Because we discussed a lot, but we didn't really have any conclusions there. That was something
Yeah.
to handle. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, but PCI one, I
yeah.
thought we concluded with that it's not possible to do any further work in this forum. It has to be done by SIG members outside of this forum. So that was the limit of what we can do on PCI in this forum, right?
Yeah,
I see, but
yeah. It was a bit. I don't know if we concluded that we couldn't do anything at all, but it was definitely limited, Yogesh. I do want to mention, right? One of the things we did that came up in this forum was the root complex ECS handling. For the error core messages being directed to firmware versus OS. I just want to mention something, which is that we pushed that through as an ECN that just got approved. So, that came out of this forum. So it just got approved by the PCI.
That's great. Yeah. So
Nice.
that's kind of what we were expecting, right? So
Yep.
and I think AMD and Meta took one driving one each, and so I think not to say that we cannot talk about it at all, but I think the real work of writing, discussing, ECRs have to be taken place under the PCI SIG membership conditions. So that's there. We cannot bypass that.
So I think one thing we could do, and I guess I don't know if we still have access to that spreadsheet we'd been looking at.
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we might want to relook at it and just see if there's other pieces where we think, these are important problems to solve, and then, some PCI SIG members can go off and solve them. And Yogesh, maybe, I don't know that everyone who's here today was on the call when we did that. So I guess just the limitations Yogesh was mentioning, it's worth bringing this up. This is an OCP forum, right? The PCIe spec is PCIe SIG material, like confidential PCIe SIG material, right? Versus this is an open forum. So we sort of, we can't talk about the spec or show the spec here, right? We could say, oh, this thing on page 8 of the spec or whatever. But then, individual members, people who have access to the PCI spec need to go look at it, right? So it's kind of constricting in that way because we can't debate language of the spec in this forum without breaking, consortium rules, right? But yeah, I mean, Yogesh, I do think it'd be worth spending a meeting or two looking at that and just saying, hey, is there some, other problem here that we would think we want to solve, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. In fact, I can flash it real quick here. Also, the location of it, I can dump it in the chat window. So we are ready for a discussion. This is there's a lot of there are a lot of topics, and so everyone can see my screen now, or not yet?
No.
I guess not yet. Okay, I have to press one more button to share it there. So this was the spreadsheet, and I'm sure it's very difficult to read right now. This is the spreadsheet that Vilas was mentioning. We did work on it, all of us together, and went through, priorities about what can be improved in PCIe, and identified some things that can be, ECN, and I also identified the drivers and all that. I can. This is in the in the folder, in the main folder, I think it's called. You can see the name, right? Because you don't want to go through it today, right? That would probably consume a meeting. Unless someone wants to highlight, hey, this line number, I want to talk about, or.
Vilas, which one is the one that you were saying is already through in this list?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. This isn't the spreadsheet that I remember. So.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't know then. This was, I thought. Oh, maybe there's another version of it. Okay.
Oh, this thing. Hang on. This thing
Yeah.
looks more familiar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of a summary of all this SIG topics. We kind of distilled things down into SIG topics, but this is the same workbook.
Okay. Yeah, it was I mean, it was somewhere in here when we were discussing it. You know, the topic of that, error core with ECS came up. By the way, I mean, now that we're mentioning it, and I will say this without breaking any of the rules, the PCIe 6 spec has a bunch of new hardware mechanisms to log errors, and I don't think the firmware side of that is complete. So that is something that I think we're going to tackle, just like bringing that up to everyone. Right? So if you haven't looked at PCI 6, you might want to.
So when you say we are going to tackle as in this group or AMD?
No, as in AMD, I think is going to tackle
Okay.
that. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to, try and propose something there. But it's worth everyone here looking at it. I don't want to say too much more just because I don't want to. But it's pretty obvious what the new mechanisms are, and just take a look and.
And this is for
yeah,
PCI 7, it's like Gen 7?
No, 6, Gen 6.
6. Oh, Gen 6. Okay.
Yeah. So okay. That's something we can revisit, dedicate a meeting or two to that.
So,
After we're done with.
quick question. So when that whole PCI effort started, my understanding was the intention is like PCI SIG provides a lot of configurability in order to span different markets. PCI is used, but we wanted to have data center specific configs. That was the whole orientation that, okay, for data center deployment from an endpoint or a root complex side or report side, what would be the best configs to deploy for different type of error events that PCS SIG kind of documents. The ECN part that was mentioned, was that in that direction, or does it
No. No. I mean, you're right, Amer. That was one of the initial intents. I mean, the ECN was we were looking at some of that and realized that there were just some, gaps in what PCI spec'd, right? But you're right. Like coming up with like a data center mission profile was something. Yogesh, I don't know if we can do that or not without sort of violating the rules. I think that's the
No,
trick.
I think we talked about a bridge spec, but anything we do that kind of appears to override or even complement PCI specifications and mentions PCI specifications or anything in that, we'll get in trouble. So no, absolutely not. We cannot do that.
So is it like we need to have separate meeting with which will where we will qualify a person being a PCI SIG member is it prerequisite to attend? But it would be under OCP banner, or nothing can happen under OCP banner.
Nothing can happen under OCP banner, right? So so for example, okay, for that ECN, I'll just use it as a convenient example. AMD worked that out with Dell and HPE. When we were speaking to Dell and HPE, we were speaking under a PCIe NDA, which is different than an OCP, any OCP agreement that exists, right? So right there, that's one reason like you can't do it under an OCP banner, right? Like it's a different set of agreements, right? So it was sort of, I think the way it was phrased is like if we identify a problem statement here, it is fine to go and then work that out under a PCIe umbrella, right? Like that's fine, which is exactly what happened with that ECN. But, you know, that's kind of how it has to work, right? We can't work it out under an OCP umbrella just because all the agreements and confidentiality and all that are different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Hey, you guys, can you do me a huge favor? Like, I know you put the thing in the chat, but I'm not going to be able. I'm outside right now, and can you email me the link? I can't access
I
this
can,
chat.
yeah, I can email to you. I can email to whole
Okay.
group also.
Yeah, thanks. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know about the scenarios. Mita, did you and Drew discuss that any further? I wasn't sure how much work we want to do here. I thought we're just going to, work in parallel outside, but if is it something
So
that you want
no,
to work as?
yeah, I have not had any conversation with Drew outside of what was already discussed here. But there was one scenario that Drew had presented here, and then we had given feedback. And my understanding was we would like be volunteering for them and then bringing it back to this group for feedback, like for the other scenarios that
Yeah.
are on the list.
Yeah, that was my thinking too, that we'll review it here. We'll work on those outside and then just review them here. Yeah, so that's fine. We will do that, right?
Hey, you guys. So what about that data poison document? Like, there was.
So that was an interesting one, Drew. Drew shared it with few fellows, but not we did not bring it here. That's and that could be like a individual contribution.
Which
I don't know.
document about poison?
What's the
Like
plan?
he is out of office today. Which document, Yogesh?
Poison.
Poison? Yeah. Poison is basically like education kind of white paper, right? Okay, it's not a contribution.
But he's been
The contribution,
he's been using it to include requirements, which
Uh,
both confuses it and starts to have other implications.
okay.
It could be actually a white paper contribution, Rama. I don't know what's decided, but if it needs to be, that was my understanding, and that's kind of what I was suggesting.
Yeah,
That
what I meant is it's not a binding like, hey, you go and comply to that, right? Okay, it's like
requirement is not a requirement
it's
specification.
not a requirement. It is like
Yeah, this was mostly a tutorial, right? It's
yeah,
mostly
hey,
describing
like there is some
Mhm.
confusion on poison, like hey, let's bring that, like, yeah, it's just a passion kind of thing. Hey, like we have internal discussion on how poison should work, like as part of that discussion, like that paper was written, like, yeah, it's just sharing that paper, but Yeah, it's not like say hardware fault management requirements like that one.
So Rama, are you saying to bring it into OCP as a white paper?
Yeah, that was the thing discussed. Yeah, Dean, like it's not like a requirement spec, rather like people publish like white papers, right? For insights, education purpose.
That's
Okay.
fine. The only thing I'd like to comment is my legal did not like me participating in that because it was a separate arrangement outside of OCP, and I
Okay.
won't do it again.
Yeah,
So
I
if you
would.
want to have that kind of contribution, please let's do it under the OCP banner.
That's actually what I was going to say too. Like I actually initially didn't realize that it was outside of this group, and like if my legal knew about it, I'd get in trouble. So
Oh,
But I
like
think that was
really like
the
to bring it in.
that was the understanding all along that
Yes.
I mean, otherwise, what other basis we have to?
We had to
work?
essentially sign, accept an agreement to access the document, and that was not an OCP agreement. So
Oh, okay.
that was not
Yeah.
good.
Right.
I didn't know about
I
that.
concur with that. So
Okay.
I would like to bring it in here and,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, for
Yeah.
example, right, that is not very urgent, like blocking somebody, like, yeah, if that is required, right, after PCI topic, I'll sync with Drew offline, right? We can bring that clarity. Sorry for any confusion. Okay. Like, one question, I guess, for this particular, I know RAS API, you have a CLA to sign. For this one, there is no CLA, right?
No, this is open.
This is
This is not
open, like,
extending. Yeah.
what, Villas and Dean, like what document you need to sign, like to participate in this?
Not in this. They're talking
Yeah, this
about a
is just a
Microsoft
open from starting. There is
No,
no.
no, no. So Rama, what they're
Uh,
talking about is when they access the Poison document shared by Drew, it
uh,
was a Microsoft document.
oh, I got it. Okay, I got
It
it.
was not shared as an OCP document. That's
Oh, okay. Okay. We need to put that. I got the requirement now. Like, even for white paper contribution, you should not have any Microsoft confidential or Microsoft language. It should be like go through some review process, upload it to as a white paper, discuss somewhere, and okay, I
It
got
should
it.
be an OCP. Oh, OCP document.
OCP.
Yeah, it should be
Without having
OCP white paper kind of format. Okay.
without having Drew here, it was unclear why he had to write it under the Microsoft auspices. It was unclear to me why he had to go through Microsoft legal for that paper.
I don't think he needed to. I think it was convenient for him, and he
Okay.
didn't really realize the implications.
The
No,
implications,
we
okay.
have our own policy, Charlie. Like anything like Microsoft employee is contributing, like we just go through like internal legal process just to make sure like we are not disclosing, because some people may by mistake share it, right? That is just a small process we have. Okay, but when we
okay.
share it
Okay.
externally, we won't put as a Microsoft confidential or something.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we will try to bring that clarity. Okay.
All right, very well. Any other burning issues that we need to solve in this one?
Let me ask a question. Two questions. The in-band document, or I guess really the Rev 2 of the requirements that merge all the in-band and out-of-band. I know we say we're close, but what do we think is the practical, timeline to get done? I, for one, certainly want to read it again before we're done, for example.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. In fact, I started reading it a little bit more critically and already found a few things. Our effort, I mean, seriously, we have a lot of discussion in this group, which is fine. But I think our progress also gets bogged down by that amount of discussion. So the effort for so thinking was to get it out as soon as possible.
Well, maybe let me ask the question a different way.
That
Right?
doesn't work.
Yeah, well,
As soon as possible.
Yeah, I know.
So
So it has not been working for many years, right, Rama? So for first 3 years, we're getting weekly notices to cancel this work stream, and then we made something work. So that's the thing. We want to make it work. So to give you an answer, we are in end of May. I think we should target 8 weeks. Maybe by end of July, we should get it out. Yeah.
And if we get it out, then we can submit an abstract to the global summit and say this has been released. Like that, I think that should be the realistic target, right?
So from there to global summit is not that far. We're talking another 8 weeks. So that's why. Yeah, and so I think contribute it, present, discuss at the summit. That's good. I think that's good plan.
Though, I think we're closer to that goal for FMFM rather than this one.
Yeah, FMFM is a little bit more constrained, but this one we have, and I think, I don't want to go into that, but I think, I don't know, Vilas, if you want to talk about it, maybe we want to take a hard look at it and see how we want to actually structure it, but then it might slow us down again.
It might, but again, okay. My question was really to get a deadline, and if 8 weeks, is sufficient time to be done or materially done such that we think it will be contributed and released by the global summit, that's fine. Like that's a fine deadline, right? So end of July.
Yep.
My basic question is, how do we agree we're done? Is it general consensus? Will a vote be taken? Is it just up to the editor to decide?
We go through the table of content, section by section, line by line, review everything. Everyone says, I'm okay with that. Signing off my name on it, we are done. Some things we think, we should have this and that. New stuff will take a lot of work. We'll say, how about next revision? That's how
let me ask Dean's question in a different way, and because I forget how we did this. In some of the CLA work groups, in order to release a spec, every member has to sign an FSA that explicitly says, yeah, we're okay with this being released.
We don't have that requirement, but if it makes anyone feel better, what we can do is we can have a poll through Group IO and say, okay, we think we are ready and we're going to release. Do you have any objections? Yes, no.
And is it a majority vote, 2/3 vote, 3/4 vote, unanimous vote?
There's no
rules. There's no rules here.
Electoral college also.
I'm sorry, me to say that again?
Sorry, I could not resist.
Dean, just the previous contributions, how it worked, right? Whoever is the contributors here actively working, they'll just say, hey, are we ready, mature, right? There is no voting happened before, like, except the CLA documents, right? Non-CLA, like, hey, just like everybody reviewed it, signed off, like that's how the previous hardware fault management requirement. There was no voting before.
No voting. Yeah, I don't think we need it really, and I think that really doesn't serve any special purpose. I mean, unnecessarily making it complicated is not really.
Well, but hold on, right? We have significantly larger number of active participants now than we did when we released the 1.0 document, and so to Dean's point, I think it is useful to make sure have at least some kind of lightweight mechanism to make sure that like we're all in agreement, right? At some level.
And we can also do it this way, like if there are some parts which are like completely objectionable. For example, someone says, I do not agree with this error handling definition or this column, this cell in that table. We can, register and come back to that in future revision, or we can, if something is very controversial and like there's no way we can let it go with this. We can remove some parts and move on. I think we need to work in that somewhat of that mode of urgency of getting things done, because I think, to be honest, we're really very slow.
So what I'm
So,
hearing,
yeah.
based on my experience, so I've worked with the Trusted Computing Group for many years. What we're going to agree on in a general consensus kind of way is a set of guidelines and directions and opinions. This is not a standard.
So this is a requirements, right? This is not really a binding standard in
It's
that
not
way.
binding, right?
Yeah, it's not. This is a requirements specifications. If you want to be a good OCP compliant citizen, you do that. We do not yet have that kind of set of, and eventually we should get there maybe, but that kind of set of, if you want to get OCP compliant logo, these is the checkbox. This is the checkbox list of requirements that you must comply with. We don't have that kind of bindingness. So we are already in that area, what you're saying, in that, it is really what you said.
Okay.
Right
Okay,
now, like
thanks.
the way it's working, Dean, is like
I had one question.
for example, let's say Microsoft likes that requirements or something. We are working with individual silicon vendors. Hey, let's do this out of band RAS, no SMI for x86, right? We are negotiating with individual silicon vendors. There is no like logo kind of hardware or like, hey, this particular like hardware follows that. I think that is a big lengthy process that they are doing it for like hardware specs, like say DC, SCM or something, right? Where they say like exactly this pin connector, my board supports it, and right, for software specs generally that kind of thing is not there. It is like whoever, like say hyperscalers or enterprise customers, they want this particular feature requirements. We are individually working with silicon vendors. Yeah, for that logo is there for hardware kind of like connector requirements because it's very strict and like, right? Yeah, compatibility across generations.
Yeah. So the document is a requirements framework. There are individual OCP, there are individual work streams or sub-project, I forget what, work streams under this sub-project that do release specifications that are more sort of nominally binding, right? Again, they're not like connector specs, so, but they're more along the lines of a specification, right? But yeah, this is a requirements framework.
So I had an aspect discuss over there, an allied point. So example, we are doing CXL memory controller. We work with both AMD and then Intel with their host processors to make sure our DRAM memory controllers are adhering to the CXL spec. Now the CXL spec itself talks about RAS features and fault management. So we are, I believe, the server processors companies, they would expect us to follow the CXL spec. Now, how do we draw that line between this OCP fault management spec and the JEDEC spec or
you
the
don't.
CXL spec?
You don't, right? That's the key thing. Think about this as that's what I was trying to say. We don't call this a specification. It's a requirements framework or something, right? Think about this as saying, here's how we as a group think, a data center should work. And here's a couple of options. There's lots of individual specs that spec out how one does work in those things. So just a perhaps simple example, for in-band firmware first, like to Mita's earlier point, there's an ACPI spec that says here is an interface between the platform and the hardware. it meets many of the requirements we've laid out, or the requirements we've laid out in this requirements framework, right? So like the document we are producing is in no way specific enough to implement to, right? And it's not intended to be. It's intended to be more of a signpost or guidelines, right? And then, and then these are interesting areas for spec development. And then once those specs are developed, then people implement those.
Okay, so I believe that we can take the guidelines out of this and then try and influence the CXL specs, or in our interactions with the JEDEC committee, we try and influence those specifications to maybe point towards these, or at least lift up a lot of the good points out of this. I mean, already things like the poison list management are already out there in even the CXL specs. So
yes,
make it
that would be
guiding light, maybe be a guiding light. And
that's how I view it, certainly. I mean, Yogesh, correct me if you think I'm saying it incorrectly, but I think that's a good use of the requirements framework.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, so Yogesh, right? I do feel like we ought to have just something. I mean, especially because we're all like, I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm like traveling. I got vacation, like this and that. Like, I don't want someone to happen to miss a meeting and then not be able to, then we release something that they don't agree to, right? I think it would be good to have a poll that's,
Sure,
I don't know,
we can do that.
weeks,
No,
whatever,
worries.
right? Just 2
Yeah.
weeks and just. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to make this up, and I'm just going to go ahead and say the majority of the people that vote, as long as we have majority approval, that should be fine. It's really just a mechanism to make sure no one's feedback gets missed.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Right. Dean, does that work for you? I mean, you brought it up. I think it was a good point. So.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct based on experience is to go with a formal process, but this organization is not set up for that. So I think what you described is in the spirit of it. So you don't do it in one meeting, you do it via electronic means, and you can talk about it in a meeting. Give everybody a chance to weigh in. If there's something that's obviously egregious, we address it. If not, there might be a few dissenting opinions, but the majority, hopefully a supermajority, will rule and we'll go forward. And I think the way you described it as a requirements framework, which leads other specs in a direction, is appropriate and what I think others at ARM were kind of expecting. So it's a long-winded way of saying I agree with you.
Okay, cool. Any disagreement from anyone on the call? Okay, so Yogesh, if we're aiming to be done in 8 weeks, we probably want to put that poll out 4 weeks, give people 2 weeks to respond, and then have 2 weeks of buffer if we need to fix stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable timeline.
Okay.
All right. I think we have 15 minutes left. We did good in terms of orienting ourselves and preparing for future, but I don't know if we want to open the document and go through line by line. I saw a lot of comments there, which are mostly kind of grammatical kind of things. I don't know what does everyone feel like? Do we go through reviewing that, or do we continue offline review and dispose of all the comments when Drew and Anil and they're also present, so can have some more discussion on what is, because a lot of comments were by Anil, so I don't know if he wanted to have discussion. That's why he left them as comment. I'm okay with ending early today. I think we had some meaningful discussion, which is good. Time to time, we need to reorient ourselves. So, what do you all think?
Can spend some time on like OCP Global Summit presentations from our hardware fault management work group, because
Yeah, I was also going to say the same. Like, and especially about the spec. I mean, do we want to talk about this spec because the submission date for the abstracts is just June 16th in 2 weeks' time?
So I have already submitted abstracts for us for this work stream, and definitely talking about the next revision in band error handling requirement spec is one big plan of that. Other part is the next steps, the future things that we're going to do. So and I think we'd want to walk through, like we did Vilas for out of band, walk through one example where we can kind of show off goodness of having coexistence of in band and out of band along with RAS API if possible. So that would be, and I asked for minimum 30 minutes for that. This time we requested hardware management, which is kind of our umbrella project for hardware fault management, fleet memory fault management, all the GPU projects, RAS API, and silent data corruption, all of these projects, and some others which are more on manageability side. I requested that we get full day rather than half day like did last time, and we're really squeezed for time. So that is the plan there.
thank you, Yogesh. Yeah. Like maybe we can talk to hardware management team leads and see, because there are a lot of contributions. Like last year, there were a lot of like pushback combining into small slots, hopefully. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. You can leave early if no other topics.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good
good
weekend.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Happy Friday. Bye bye.
Bye now.
We can